Welcome, everybody. This is Andy Steele from 8E911 Truth with a quick 8E911 Truth news update. And if you go to our website, to our news section, by the time this video hits YouTube, we'll have an article published there. It's titled, "Oh, the Irony." As editor of the Journal of Engineering Mechanics, Zdenek Bazant wrote letter encouraging discussions. This is written by Ted Walter. I'm just going to read a few excerpts from it for context. It says, between 2001 and 2011, Northwestern engineering professor Zdenek Bazant co-authored 4 papers, all published in the Journal of Engineering Mechanics, that today serve as the foundation of the official myth concerning the Twin Towers destruction. Later, it says, Bazant's attempt to explain the actual destruction has unfairly benefited from the now decade-long refusal by the editors of the Journal of Engineering Mechanics to publish a discussion critiquing Bazant's 4th and final paper. Goes on to say the discussers, Tony Zambodi and Richard Johns, argue that Bazant and his co-author, Jia Liang Li, use incorrect input values regarding the weight of the upper section and the strength of the structure below. They contend that when the input values are corrected, Bazant and Li's analysis show there would be a clearly discernible deceleration if the upper section were impacting the structure below, which there is not. So that is the context there. Of course, the authors, Tony Zambodi and Richard Johns, along with the help of Ted Walter, have been going through this epic struggle to try to get this paper fairly reviewed, to get it published. And they've been stonewalling at every turn. Basically, this article details that. What's interesting, though, John Schuler, our engineer, he just did a webinar on the Twin Towers last week. And when he was researching that, he found this letter to the editor from Zdenek Bazant himself from 1991, in which he is encouraging discussions, encouraging critiques of other people's work, saying that the profession can be harmed if we don't have such open discussions. Now, I'm just going to read a few excerpts from it. It starts off saying, statistics show that discussions in mechanics journals in general and in the Journal of Engineering Mechanics in particular are on the way to becoming an endangered species. He later says they feel that whoever undertakes the act of publishing a discussion of a scientific paper generates controversy and thus becomes controversial himself. Whether publicly or just tactically in their minds, they condemn the perpetrator of this act, especially if he is less than a leading authority. And then he later says, in my opinion, however, this is an unfortunate state of affairs. Further down in the article, he says he's talking about works that are incorrect or with the aim of humiliating authors and such, bad works. He says this, if such a poor discussion occasionally slips through, which is inevitable because of the randomness of the review process, the price of embarrassment will ultimately be paid by the discusser, no matter how senior he might be. However, the risk of damage to the prestige of our mechanics community is, in my opinion, small and tolerable. It is far outweighed by the damage from banning discussions. Just as democratic societies thrive on unbridled public discussion of all important issues and totalitarian regimes rot by suppressing such discussion, our community cannot afford to avoid discussing unresolved scientific issues if it is to remain healthy. And he even cites examples where people have been corrected on ideas in the engineering community that have been held by that same community for a very long time, decades even, but because of discussions, the ideas were reversed, things were corrected, and there's no harm in that, no harm in people coming out admitting they were wrong. He concludes the paper by saying, as editor of this journal, I welcome and indeed strongly encourage more paper discussions. Dear readers, please don't be timid. Speak out if you have something to say. A friend or colleague worthy of your respect would not feel offended if you discussed his paper. Your discussion will probably be noticed and read by more people than your papers. You will make our journal more interesting to read, and you will have a chance of stimulating a breakthrough. And I could not agree with the gentleman anymore. So thank you for putting that out there in the world, Mr. Bazant, back in 1991. Now I'm going to ask you to step forward and stand by it. Support the publishing of Tony Zambodi and Richard Johns' paper critiquing your work. And stand by the words that you expressed back in 1991, because that was true. And there is no harm in having your work critiqued. If you really believe in your theory, then certainly you can defend it. But let's not suppress the discussion, because we can learn new things. And the engineering community is better served when we have those discussions. So for AE 911 Truth, this is Andy Steele saying we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.